Nobody understood why the deaf CEO's son was crying desperately in the park, until a black girl approached and started using sign language, revealing something that would change everything forever. A child's scream in a crowded park, a father's helplessness, a stranger who speaks the language no one else understands, but no one imagined what would come next. Marcus Hayes had built empires with his words. At 32, he commanded boardrooms across 3 continents, negotiated billion-dollar deals before breakfast, and convinced shareholders with nothing more than his voice and vision. His quarterly earnings calls were legendary on Wall Street. Journalists called him the silver-tongued titan of tech innovation. But on this ordinary Tuesday afternoon in Volunteer Park, surrounded by Seattle's towering evergreens and the distant view of the Space Needle, Marcus Hayes was utterly, devastatingly powerless. His 7-year-old son Ethan sat on the grass near the water tower, tears streaming down his face, his small body convulsing with sobs that made no sound. The boy's hands moved frantically, desperately signing words that Marcus barely understood, despite 3 years of American Sign Language classes. His son's anguish was a language Marcus had never truly learned to speak. "Ethan, please," Marcus said, kneeling in his $1,000 Tom Ford suit on the damp grass, not caring about the stains. He tried to remember the signs, his hands clumsy and slow. "Tell Daddy what happened." But Ethan's signing was too fast, too panicked, his small fingers blurring together in his distress. Marcus caught fragments. Bad, scared, man. But the rest dissolved into incomprehensible movement. Other parents in the park had stopped to stare. A jogger slowed her pace, concern etched on her face. An elderly woman with a Yorkie approached tentatively. "Is he all right?" she asked. "Should I call someone?" Marcus felt heat creeping up his neck. Here he was, one of Forbes's 30 under 35, unable to communicate with his own child. He'd given speeches at TED, convinced venture capitalists to invest hundreds of millions, but he couldn't understand what his son was trying desperately to tell him. "He's deaf," Marcus explained, hearing the defeat in his own voice. "He's trying to tell me something, but I don't understand what he's signing." The woman's expression shifted from concern to pity, which somehow made everything worse. Marcus turned back to Ethan, whose tears had soaked the collar of his blue Seattle Mariners t-shirt. The boy's hands were still moving, more slowly now, as if he'd realized his father couldn't understand him. The resignation in his son's eyes broke something inside Marcus's chest. 3 years. 3 years since the accident that had stolen Ethan's hearing. 3 years of specialists and therapists, and expensive hearing aids that sat unused in their Capitol Hill penthouse because Ethan refused to wear them. 3 years of Marcus throwing money at the problem, hiring the best ASL tutors, enrolling in classes himself. And still, in the moment his son needed him most, Marcus was failing. "Maybe he's hungry," the elderly woman offered. "Or tired." Marcus wanted to scream. His son wasn't a toddler throwing a tantrum. Ethan was trying to communicate something urgent, something important, and Marcus's inadequacy was a wall between them. Then he heard a voice, clear and young and certain. "Excuse me, sir." "I can help." Marcus turned to see a young black girl, maybe 8 years old, with intricate cornrow braids pulled back from her face and the most intense brown eyes he'd ever seen. She wore faded jeans and a purple hoodie that had seen better days. There was something old in her gaze, something that didn't belong in a child's eyes. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, but this isn't—" Marcus began. "He's signing about a man near the bathrooms," the girl interrupted, her voice matter-of-fact. "A man with a red jacket who was talking to 2 little kids. He says the kids looked scared. He says the man grabbed one of them by the arm really hard." Marcus stared at her. The park seemed to tilt slightly. "How do you—" "I'm Zara," the girl said simply, then moved past Marcus and sat down directly in front of Ethan. Her hands began to move with fluid precision, signing with a speed and grace that made Marcus's attempts look like a toddler's scribbles. Ethan's eyes widened, and fresh tears spilled down his cheeks as he signed back furiously. The conversation happened in silence, but Marcus could see it was intense. Zara's expression grew more serious with each exchange. Ethan's hands moved faster, more urgently. At one point, Zara reached out and took Ethan's hands in hers, stilling them gently, signing something slow and deliberate that made Ethan nod. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably less than 2 minutes, Zara turned to Marcus. The look on her face made his blood run cold. "Mr. Hayes," she said, and something about her tone made her sound far older than 8 years old. "Your son just witnessed something really bad. There's a man in a red jacket who's been watching kids near the public restrooms for the past hour. About 20 minutes ago, he approached 2 children, a boy and a girl, both around 5 or 6 years old. He told them their mom was looking for them by the parking lot. When the little girl hesitated, he grabbed her arm hard enough to leave marks. Your son saw the whole thing, but he couldn't make anyone understand. Marcus felt like he'd been punched. Where are they now?" "The children, the man. Ethan says they went toward the east parking lot about 15 minutes ago. The man was hurrying them along." Zara's hands moved as she spoke, continuing to sign everything for Ethan's benefit. "He says the little girl was crying but trying to hide it." Marcus was already pulling out his phone, dialing 911 with shaking hands. As he reported what Zara had translated, describing the man, the children, the location, he watched this strange, composed girl continue signing to his son. Ethan was calmer now, his sobs reduced to occasional hiccups, his full attention on Zara. The police arrived within 7 minutes, 3 squad cars and a detective who took Marcus's statement with rapid efficiency. When they asked to speak with the witness, Zara stepped forward without hesitation and provided details with a clarity that stunned everyone present. She described not just what Ethan had seen, but where he'd been standing, what time it had happened, even specific details about the man's appearance that Ethan had noticed. "He says the man had a tattoo on his left hand," Zara translated, her small fingers moving in perfect synchronization with her words. "Snake wrapped around a dagger. And he was wearing really new white sneakers, but his jacket was old and dirty." The detective's expression changed. "Wait, can you ask him about the car? Did the boy see what kind of car the man was driving?" Zara signed the question. Ethan's response was immediate and emphatic. "Silver van," Zara reported. "No windows in the back. License plate had the numbers 3 and 7. He only saw it for a second before they drove away." "That's incredibly observant," the detective said, looking at Ethan with new respect. "Son, you might have just helped us catch a very bad man. We've been looking for someone matching that description for weeks." As the detective radioed the information to other units, Marcus knelt down in front of his son. Ethan's face was blotchy from crying, his eyes red and swollen, but there was something new in his expression now. Pride, maybe, or vindication. He'd been trying to tell someone, and finally someone had listened. "I'm sorry," Marcus signed, the words clumsy but heartfelt. "I should have understood." Ethan signed something back quickly, and Marcus looked helplessly at Zara. "He says it's okay," she translated softly. "He says you try really hard even when you mess up the signs. He says he loves you." Marcus pulled his son into his arms, feeling Ethan's small body shake with residual sobs. Over his son's shoulder, he watched Zara stand slightly apart, her arms wrapped around herself, looking suddenly very young and very alone. When they finally separated, Marcus turned to the girl who had saved the day. "Zara, your signing is incredible. How long have you been learning ASL?" Something flickered across her face, an emotion too complex for Marcus to identify. "I've been deaf since I was 5, she said quietly. "Car accident. My hearing came back after surgery when I was 6, but I never stopped signing. It's who I am." Marcus felt the ground shift beneath him again. This child had walked the road his son was on. She understood in ways Marcus never could. "Where are your parents?" Marcus asked, looking around the park. "They must be worried. I'm here with my aunt," Zara said quickly. Too quickly. "She's over by the rose garden." "I should go find her." Before Marcus could respond, one of the officers called out, "Detective Morrison, we got him." Unit 5 spotted the van on Broadway. "They're in pursuit. 2 children secured safely." The detective pumped his fist, then turned to where Ethan sat with Marcus. "Young man, those kids are safe because of you, because you didn't give up trying to tell someone what you saw." Ethan's smile was radiant, transforming his tear-stained face. He signed something and everyone looked at Zara. "He says heroes don't need to hear to see what's wrong," she translated, and her voice caught slightly. "He says sometimes the quiet people notice things loud people miss." The detective nodded solemnly. "That's the truest thing I've heard all week, son." As the police wrapped up, Marcus kept watching Zara. She was edging away from the group, preparing to disappear back into the park. Something in his chest tightened. This girl had given his son a voice when Marcus couldn't. She'd been the bridge his son needed. He couldn't just let her walk away. "Zara, wait," Marcus called. She turned, wariness in her eyes. "I'd like to thank you properly. Can I take you and your aunt to dinner? Or, I don't know. How do I properly thank someone for something like this?" Zara's expression was unreadable. "You don't need to thank me." "I want to," Marcus insisted. "Please, at least let me get your contact information." "Ethan," he glanced at his son, who was signing frantically. Marcus caught the signs for friend and please and see again. "He wants to see you again," Marcus said. "He wants to be your friend." For a moment something cracked in Zara's composure. Her eyes glistened and she bit her lip. Then she straightened her shoulders and the wall was back. "I'm at Volunteer Park most Tuesdays after school," she said. 3 o'clock. Your son can find me here if he wants." Before Marcus could say anything else, she was gone, disappearing into the groups of people still milling around after the police activity. "Sir?" Detective Morrison approached with a card. "We'll need your son to come down to the station tomorrow to give a formal statement. His testimony, even through a translator, will be crucial for the prosecution. The man we arrested is wanted in connection with 3 attempted abductions over the past 6 weeks. Your son may have prevented something terrible." Marcus took the card, his mind reeling. In the space of an hour, his entire understanding of his son and himself had been shattered and rebuilt. That evening, back in their penthouse overlooking Elliott Bay, Marcus sat with Ethan at the kitchen island. His son was eating pizza, signing one-handed about his day with an enthusiasm Marcus hadn't seen in months. Every few minutes, Ethan would sign Zara's name, his face lighting up. Marcus pulled out his laptop and began researching. Advanced ASL courses, deaf culture, support groups for parents of deaf children. He'd thought he was doing enough, thought his money and resources were sufficient. But Zara had shown him in minutes what 3 years of expensive tutors hadn't taught him, that truly understanding his son meant more than learning signs. It meant learning to see the world through his son's eyes. His phone buzzed with an email from his assistant. Meeting with Tokyo investors moved to Thursday. Conference call with board members at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Quarterly reports need review. Marcus looked at the email, then at his son, who was signing excitedly about the detective's words, about being a hero, about Zara's promise to meet them again. For the first time in his career, Marcus Hayes typed 3 words he'd never used in a professional email: "Cancel everything tomorrow." Then he closed his laptop and gave his son his complete attention, determined to learn the language that mattered most. As Ethan signed about heroes and friends and the girl with braids who understood him, Marcus finally began to truly listen. But neither of them knew that Tuesday's chance encounter in Volunteer Park was not chance at all. And the connection forming between their family and Zara would soon reveal truths that would shake the foundation of everything Marcus thought he knew about his son, his past, and the price of the success he'd built his life upon. Hey everyone, before we continue with this incredible story, if you're feeling these emotions as much as I am, please hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what you think about Ethan and Zara's connection. Your support helps me share more stories like this. Now let's see what happens next. The Tuesday morning board meeting that Marcus didn't attend nearly cost him control of his company. By noon, 3 board members had called personally, their concern thinly veiling their irritation. Richard Thornton, the silver-haired chairman who'd mentored Marcus since his Harvard days, left a voicemail that was more disappointed father than business partner. "Marcus, I went to bat for you when the board wanted an older CEO. I convinced them that your vision was worth the risk. Skipping quarterly review without explanation makes me look like a fool. Call me back immediately." Marcus listened to the message while sitting cross-legged on his living room floor, completely absorbed in the ASL lesson playing on his tablet. Ethan sat beside him, patiently correcting his father's finger positions, his small face serious and encouraging. When Marcus fumbled the sign for understand for the 3rd time, Ethan giggled silently, his whole body shaking with mirth, and demonstrated the correct movement with exaggerated slowness. Marcus saved Richard's voicemail and went back to practicing. The board could wait. They'd waited 3 years while he'd buried himself in work, using success as anesthesia for his guilt about Ethan's accident. They could wait 1 more day while he finally got his priorities straight. The accident. Marcus still couldn't think about it without his chest tightening. Ethan had been 4 years old, visiting Marcus's office downtown because his nanny had called in sick. Marcus had been deep in negotiations for a merger, the deal that had ultimately made him his first $100 million. He'd told Ethan to stay in the office, to play quietly with his toys while Daddy worked. But 4-year-olds don't understand the importance of multi-billion-dollar negotiations. Ethan had wandered out, found the elevator, pressed buttons at random. He'd ended up in the parking garage 6 floors below. The delivery truck never saw the small boy dart out from between cars, chasing a ball that had rolled from his backpack. The driver slammed on the brakes. The horn blared, and Ethan, startled and terrified, had been standing directly in front of the blaring horn when it went off. The acoustic trauma was immediate and severe. By the time Marcus found him, those horrible 15 minutes that felt like 15 years, Ethan was on the ground, blood trickling from his ears, screaming silently because the sound had already gone from his world. 3 years of surgeries, 3 years of specialists saying the nerve damage was too severe, too extensive. 3 years of Marcus throwing money at a problem that money couldn't fix. And 3 years of Marcus working even harder, as if success could somehow make up for those 15 minutes of parental failure. "Daddy," Ethan's hand waved in front of Marcus's face, pulling him from his dark thoughts. His son signed slowly. "You're thinking about the bad day again." Marcus's throat tightened. Ethan called it the bad day, refusing to give it more power than that. His son had more emotional wisdom at 7 than Marcus had managed at 32. "I'm sorry," Marcus signed back, the movement more fluid than yesterday, but still clumsy. "I'm trying to be better." "You are better," Ethan signed, then pointed at the tablet. "Come on, let's learn justice. I want to know how to tell Zara that the bad man went to jail." Marcus smiled and restarted the lesson. Justice, a good word to learn. That evening, after Ethan was asleep, Marcus finally returned Richard's call. The older man answered on the first ring. "Where the hell have you been?" "With my son," Marcus said simply. Learning to talk to him, silence stretched across the line. Then, "Marcus, you've been taking ASL classes for 3 years." "No, Richard. I've been attending ASL classes for 3 years. There's a difference." Marcus stood at his floor-to-ceiling window, watching the lights of Seattle spread out below. "Yesterday, my son tried to tell me he'd witnessed a kidnapping attempt, and I couldn't understand him. An 8-year-old stranger had to translate. Do you know what that feels like? I can imagine it's difficult, but with respect, Richard, you can't." Marcus's voice was quiet but firm. They spent the next hour in the park. Zara and Ethan played an elaborate game involving signs and charades that Marcus couldn't quite follow, but that had both children laughing. When Ethan got frustrated with a complex sign, Zara would slow down, break it into components, demonstrate it from different angles until Ethan understood. She was a natural teacher, patient and encouraging. At one point, while the kids were practicing, Marcus noticed a woman watching them from near the bathrooms. She was thin, worn-looking, maybe in her 40s, with dark circles under her eyes. When Marcus made eye contact, she quickly looked away and left. "Zara," Marcus called. "Is that your aunt?" Zara glanced over, her whole body tensing. "No, my aunt is. She's working today." She couldn't come. It was a lie. Marcus knew it instinctively, the same way he knew when business partners were hiding information. But before he could press, Zara was checking an old cracked watch on her wrist. "I have to go," she said abruptly. "It's almost 5. "But we just got here," Ethan signed, his face falling. "I know, and I'm sorry, but I have to go," Zara signed back. "Next Tuesday, same time?" Ethan nodded enthusiastically, and Zara gave him a quick hug before hurrying away down the path. She moved quickly, purposefully, not looking back. Marcus watched her go, pieces of a puzzle forming in his mind. A girl with no visible parent. Vague mentions of an aunt who never appeared. Worn clothes and a cracked watch. That woman watching from the bathrooms with recognition in her eyes. And underneath it all, that wariness, that self-sufficiency that no 8-year-old should need to have. "Daddy." Ethan tugged his sleeve. "Zara's sad sometimes." "I can tell, even when she smiles." Marcus knelt and pulled his son into a hug. "You're very observant, buddy. I noticed that too. Can we help her?" Ethan signed. "The way she helped me." Marcus thought about that all the way home. He thought about it through dinner and through Ethan's bedtime routine. He was still thinking about it at midnight when he sat at his computer and typed Zara and Def in Seattle into a search engine. knowing he was probably overstepping, but unable to shake the feeling that something was very wrong. What he found made him reach for his phone to call Detective Morrison. What he found made him understand that last Tuesday's encounter had been less about chance and more about fate. What he found would change everything. Detective Morrison answered Marcus's call at 12:15 a.m. with the groggy irritation of someone woken from deep sleep. "Hayes, this better be an emergency." "It's about Zara," Marcus said, staring at his computer screen. "The girl who translated for Ethan. I need to know, legally I need to know, if what I found constitutes a reportable situation." Morrison's tone shifted immediately. "What did you find?" 3-year-old news article from the Tacoma Tribune. Local interest piece about a girl named Zara Washington who lost her hearing in a car accident at age 5. Same accident that killed her mother and put her father in a coma for 2 weeks. Article mentions she was remarkable, taught herself to read at age 3, was reading at a 6th grade level at age 5. After the accident, she learned ASL in 6 months, faster than her therapists had ever seen. Marcus paused. The article ends by saying her father, Raymond Washington, had started a foundation for deaf children in Tacoma and was advocating for better ASL education in public schools. "Okay," Morrison said slowly. "That's sad, but not necessarily reportable. There's more. I found Raymond Washington's LinkedIn. He was a civil engineer, well-respected, solid career, but his profile hasn't been updated in 2 years. His foundation's website is defunct. And, here's what worries me, I found his name in eviction records from 18 months ago. He was living in Tacoma then. Now there's no record of where he is. Marcus, a girl matching Zara's description appeared in a Seattle homeless youth outreach report from 8 months ago. The report mentioned a child, no name given, who was highly intelligent, possibly deaf or hearing impaired, showing signs of educational neglect, but extremely self-sufficient. The outreach worker tried to follow up but never located the child again. The silence on the other end was heavy. That's circumstantial, I know, but add it to the fact that she's in the park alone, wearing clothes that are too big and worn, avoiding any mention of her family, and disappearing the moment someone shows too much interest. Morrison, something's wrong. Even if you're right, you can't just... I'm not planning to kidnap her, Detective. I'm asking what the legal protocol is. If I see her again, if I confirm my suspicions, what's my obligation? Morrison sighed. If you have reasonable cause to believe a child is neglected or endangered, you're mandated to report it to Child Protective Services. But Marcus, be careful. You don't know this girl's situation. Her father could be working 3 jobs. She could have a guardian who can't come to the park. You could destroy a family by being wrong. And if I'm right, if I do nothing, then a child continues to suffer. Morrison paused. Welcome to the impossible choices of social work. Look, if you see her again, approach carefully. Talk to her. Gain her trust. If she's really in trouble, she needs help. Not an investigation that might spook whoever's responsible for her. After they hung up, Marcus sat in his darkened home office, the weight of knowledge pressing down on him. He thought about Ethan asleep down the hall, safe and loved and well-fed. He thought about Zara, wherever she was right now and what her night looked like. He also thought about the hypocrisy of his concern. 3 years ago, he'd been so consumed with work that his own son had nearly died from neglect. Who was he to judge another parent's struggles? But that was exactly why he had to help. Because he knew what it felt like to fail your child. And he knew the difference support could make. The week crawled by with agonizing slowness. Marcus found himself distracted during meetings, his mind drifting to a girl with cornrow braids and eyes that had seen too much. He'd catch himself checking his watch on Monday afternoon, calculating how many hours until Tuesday at 3. Ethan was equally impatient, practicing his signs obsessively, preparing conversations he wanted to have with Zara. On Monday evening, Marcus did something he'd never done before. He visited the Seattle Public Library's Social Services Information Desk and checked out books on childhood trauma, foster care systems, and how to help vulnerable youth. The librarian, a middle-aged woman with glasses on a beaded chain, gave him an approving nod. "These are excellent resources," she said. "Are you working with an organization?" "Just trying to help a child who might need it," Marcus replied honestly. "The world needs more people like you." She stamped the books. The most important thing you can give a struggling child is consistency. Show up when you say you will. Be reliable. That matters more than money or resources. Marcus thought about that all the way home. Consistency, reliability, things he'd failed to give his own son for 3 years while chasing the next deal, the next acquisition, the next triumph. Tuesday arrived with unexpected sunshine, rare for October in Seattle. Marcus left work at 2, earning a raised eyebrow from his CFO but no comment. The board was watching him, he knew, waiting to see if his new priorities would tank the company's performance. Let them watch. Let them see that a man could be both a good father and a good CEO. They arrived at Volunteer Park at 2:45. Ethan was vibrating with excitement, signing questions Marcus couldn't keep up with. Would Zara be there? What if she didn't come? Could they teach her a new game? Did Zara like pizza? At exactly 3 o'clock, Zara appeared. But this time, something was different. Her purple hoodie had a small tear at the sleeve that Marcus didn't remember from last week. There was a bruise on her left shin, visible below her 2 short jeans. And when she smiled at Ethan, it didn't quite reach her eyes. The children immediately launched into animated signing, and Marcus watched carefully. Zara was slower today, less energetic. When Ethan suggested they play their game from last week, Zara shook her head and signed something that made Ethan's face fall. Marcus approached. "Is everything okay, Zara?" "Just tired," she said, but her voice was flat. "Didn't sleep well. Did something happen?" For a moment, Zara's careful mask slipped, and Marcus saw raw exhaustion underneath. But then she straightened. "I'm fine. Just a bad dream." They sat on a park bench, the 3 of them, and Marcus pulled out snacks he'd brought, apple slices, crackers, juice boxes. When he offered them to Zara, she hesitated for a long moment before taking an apple slice. She ate it slowly, carefully, like someone who couldn't be sure when her next meal would come. "Zara," Marcus said gently, "I want to ask you something, and I want you to know you can trust me." "Are you in trouble?" Zara's whole body tensed. "What kind of trouble?" "Any kind. If you need help, I don't need help." Her voice was sharp now, defensive. "I'm fine. My aunt takes care of me." "Your aunt who never comes to the park? Your aunt I've never seen?" Zara stood abruptly. "I should go." "Wait." Marcus stood too, but kept his distance, remembering Detective Morrison's warning. "Please don't go. I'm not trying to scare you. Zara, you helped my son when no one else could. Let me return the favor. If there's anything you need, anything at all, I want to help." Zara's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "You can't help. Nobody can. Try me." Marcus's voice was soft. "I have resources, connections. Whatever the problem is that I'm 8 years old and my dad is broken." The words burst out of Zara like they'd been held back for months. "The problem is that after my mum died, my dad tried so hard to be okay, but he wasn't. He started drinking because the guilt was eating him alive. He'd been driving the car, you see, when we crashed. He survived without a scratch, and my mum died, and I lost my hearing. And he couldn't handle it. Marcus felt like he'd been punched. Zara, the foundation he started, it lasted 6 months before the alcohol got too bad. He lost his job. We lost our house. We've been moving around for 2 years, staying with his friends until they got tired of us, then someone else, then someone else. Right now we're staying in a motel on Aurora Avenue, one of the bad ones, and I know we're going to lose that too because he hasn't paid rent in 3 weeks. Tears were streaming down her face now, and Marcus wanted desperately to hug this broken child, but he stayed where he was, letting her purge the truth she'd been carrying alone. "There is no aunt," Zara continued, her voice breaking. "I made her up because it seemed safer than telling strangers I was alone with my alcoholic dad. There's just me and my dad, and he loves me, Mr. Hayes. He really does. But he's drowning, and I don't know how to save him. And I'm so tired of pretending everything's okay. I'm so tired of being the adult. I'm 8, I should be worried about homework and sleepovers, not whether my dad is passed out in the bathroom again, or if we'll have electricity tomorrow." She collapsed onto the bench, her small body shaking with sobs. This time Marcus did move closer, sitting beside her at a respectful distance. Ethan, who had been watching with wide eyes, came and sat on Zara's other side. He didn't sign anything, just leaned against her in silent support. They sat like that, For several minutes while Zara cried out what might have been months or years of accumulated pain. When she finally quieted, Marcus spoke carefully. "Zara, what you just told me, it takes incredible courage to admit you need help. And you're right, you're 8 years old. You shouldn't have to carry this alone. You're going to call someone, aren't you?" Zara's voice was small. "Child services or whatever? They'll take me away from my dad." "What I'm going to do," Marcus said slowly, thinking through each word, "is help. But I need you to trust me, and I need you to be part of the decisions. Where is your dad right now?" "At the motel, probably. He doesn't leave much anymore." "What's the name of the motel?" Zara told him. Marcus recognized it, one of the rundown establishments on Aurora Avenue North, the kind that charged by the week and didn't ask questions. "Okay, here's what I propose. I have a friend, Dr. Sarah Chen, who specializes in addiction recovery. She's also one of the kindest people I know. What if we went to see your dad together, and I introduced him to Dr. Chen? Not to force anything, but to offer help." "He won't accept help from a stranger." Zara wiped her eyes. "He's too proud." "What if the help comes from a friend?" Marcus pulled out his phone. "Zara, your dad tried to start a foundation for deaf children. He cared about helping kids like you and Ethan. That man is still in there somewhere. Maybe he just needs someone to remind him." Zara looked at Marcus for a long moment, something like hope flickering in her eyes. "You'd really do that? For someone you don't even know?" "You did it for Ethan. For me." Marcus smiled. "Besides, I think we both know this stopped being about strangers the moment you sat down with my son last week." After some discussion, they decided Marcus would visit Raymond Washington the next day. Zara was reluctant to have Ethan come along. "The motel isn't safe for kids," she said with heartbreaking matter-of-factness, so Marcus arranged for Ethan to stay with his regular sitter. Before they parted, Marcus pressed $200 in cash into Zara's hand. "For groceries, for whatever you need, please." Zara stared at the money like she'd never seen cash before. "I can't—" "Friends help friends," Marcus said, echoing her words from the previous week. "Let me be your friend." That evening, Marcus called Detective Morrison and reported what he'd learned. Morrison listened carefully, then connected Marcus with a social worker named Patricia Mendez, who specialized in family preservation cases. "The goal isn't to separate families," Patricia explained over the phone. "The goal is to provide support so families can stay together safely. If the father is willing to accept help, there are programs, resources, paths forward. And if he's not willing, then we assess whether the child is in immediate danger. From what you've described, it sounds like she's being neglected but not abused. That gives us options beyond removal." Marcus also called Dr. Sarah Chen, who agreed immediately to help. "Addiction is a disease, Marcus, not a moral failing. If this man was functional before his trauma, there's every reason to believe he can be again with proper support." Wednesday afternoon, Marcus stood outside room 117 of the Aurora Motel, steeling himself. The motel was exactly as depressing as he'd imagined. Cracked parking lot, peeling paint, the smell of cigarettes and desperation in the air. Zara had given him the room number reluctantly, made him promise he wouldn't judge her father by where they were living. Marcus knocked. For a long moment, nothing. Then shuffling footsteps and a man's voice, rough and wary. "Who is it?" "My name is Marcus Hayes. I'm a friend of Zara's. She asked me to come talk to you." The door opened a crack held by a chain lock. A man's face appeared in the gap. African-American, maybe late 30s or early 40s, with graying temples and eyes that might have been kind once, but were now just exhausted. He smelled of alcohol, but he wasn't drunk. Not yet, anyway. "Zara doesn't have friends," Raymond Washington said flatly. "She does now. My son and I met her at Volunteer Park last week. She helped my son, and I'd like to help her. Can I come in?" "Just for a few minutes?" Raymond studied Marcus through the crack for a long moment. Marcus could see the internal debate playing out on the man's face. Finally, the chain rattled and the door opened. The motel room was small and dingy, but surprisingly clean. Zara's influence, Marcus guessed. There were children's books stacked neatly on a table, a homework folder with gold stars on several papers, signs of a child trying to maintain normalcy in an abnormal situation. Raymond gestured to the single chair. "Say what you came to say." Marcus sat, choosing his words carefully. "Your daughter saved my son's life last week. Not literally, but close enough. My son is deaf. He witnessed a kidnapping attempt and couldn't make anyone understand what he'd seen. Zara translated for him. She gave him a voice when I couldn't." Something shifted in Raymond's expression. "She's good at that, helping people. She told me about your foundation, about what you were trying to build for deaf children." Raymond's face hardened. "That's ancient history." "It doesn't have to be." Marcus leaned forward. "Mr. Washington, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here because I understand what it's like to fail as a father. 3 years ago, my negligence put my son in the hospital. He lost his hearing because I was too focused on a business deal to watch him properly. I've been trying to make up for that ever since, and I'm still not sure I'm doing it right." "At least you have money," Raymond said bitterly. "Money fixes most things. It doesn't fix guilt. It doesn't fix addiction. It doesn't fix the hole in your heart when you think you've failed the person you love most." Marcus's voice was steady. "But help fixes those things. Support. People who understand that trauma doesn't make you weak, it just makes you human." Raymond's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Why are you really here?" "Because your daughter is 8 years old, and she's carrying the weight of an adult. Because she's brilliant and kind and deserves a childhood. Because you started a foundation for deaf children, which means somewhere inside you is still the man who wanted to make things better. And because I have resources and connections, and I'd like to use them to help your family." Marcus pulled out a card. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen. She specializes in addiction recovery and trauma. She's agreed to meet with you, no charge, no judgment. Just help." Raymond took the card with shaking hands. "I've tried to quit. God knows I've tried. Trying alone is almost impossible. Let people help you." Marcus stood. "I'm not going to call child services, Mr. Washington. Zara loves you, and you clearly love her, but she needs her father back. The man who started that foundation. The man who taught her that helping others matters. Be that man again." At the door, Raymond spoke again. Why do you care about us?" Marcus turned back. "Because last Tuesday your daughter gave my son his voice back. The least I can do is help give you yours. Hey friends, we're getting to the heart of this incredible story, and I need your energy with me. If this journey is touching your heart, smash that like button and tell me in the comments what you think Marcus should do next. Your support means everything. Now let's continue." The phone call came on a Thursday evening, 3 weeks after Raymond's successful school board presentation. Marcus was reviewing contracts when his phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Mr. Hayes? This is Detective Morrison. I need to ask you some questions about Raymond Washington." Marcus's stomach dropped. The suspect, Dennis Kowalski, is finally talking. He mentioned Raymond's name. According to Kowalski, they knew each other about 3 years ago from a court-ordered addiction support group. Kowalski claims Raymond had information about his activities. Marcus called Raymond immediately. "Morrison contacted me." "What's going on?" "I need to tell you something I should have told you months ago. Can you come over?" 30 minutes later, Marcus sat in Raymond and Zara's new apartment. Zara was at a sleepover, her first in years. 3 years ago I hit rock bottom," Raymond began. "Got a DUI, was court-ordered to attend an addiction support group. That's where I met Dennis Kowalski. He made people uncomfortable. Said things about kids that made my skin crawl." Raymond paced to the window. "One night I overheard him talking about watching kids at parks, describing it with excitement. He mentioned Volunteer Park specifically. I went to the police the next day, told them everything. They took my statement, but said without concrete evidence there was nothing they could do. The officer filed my report under suspicious behavior, no evidence of crime. It went into the system and disappeared. And worse, he'd given a fake name at the support group. Just Dennis K. The cops had no way to connect my vague report to Dennis Kowalski." "So you confronted him?" Marcus said. "Stupidly, yes. I was drunk, angry. Told him I knew what he was. Instead of helping, I just warned him someone was watching. A week later, I missed a custody meeting because I was passed out drunk. We were evicted. Zara and I disappeared into the system. And Dennis. He disappeared too until Zara came home that Tuesday and described the man in the park. I knew it was him. Had I realized if I'd been sober enough to be credible 3 years ago, Maybe those kids wouldn't have been in danger. Marcus gripped Raymond's shoulders. This is not your fault. You tried to report it. The system failed, not you. You were sick. Addiction is a disease. You don't blame yourself for not being able to save the world while you were barely surviving. 2 hours later, Raymond sat in an interview room with Marcus's lawyer. He told his story, every detail. The support group, the overheard conversation, his police report, the confrontation, and his failure to come forward immediately when Zara brought the story home. Detective Morrison leaned back. Mr. Washington, you did file a report 3 years ago, which I've confirmed. Our officer made a note about suspicious behavior near Volunteer Park, but without a full name or concrete evidence, it went nowhere. The report listed Dennis, male, approximately 35-40, not enough to identify anyone. That's on our system's limitations, not you. However, I understand why you didn't come forward immediately. You were terrified of losing your daughter. I need you willing to testify if called. I'll testify, Raymond said immediately. Dennis Kowalski hurt children. If my testimony helps put him away, they can say whatever they want about me. Morrison nodded. That's the right answer. The trial is scheduled for 6 weeks from now. As they left, Raymond stopped on the steps. Marcus, you should distance yourself. This is going to get ugly. You have a company to run. Stop talking nonsense, Marcus said. You're my friend. Zara is Ethan's best friend. We're in this together. That evening, Marcus explained everything to Ethan, who signed with determination. Then we'll be extra nice. We'll show everyone that Zara's dad is good. 3 days later, the story broke in local news. Marcus's office was flooded with calls from board members and investors. Marcus ignored them all and drove to Raymond's apartment. He found Raymond and Zara surrounded by newspaper clippings. Zara was crying. They called me a bad dad at school. They said my dad is friends with the bad man. Marcus knelt down. Zara, none of that is true. Sometimes people say cruel things when they don't understand. It doesn't make them true. The evidence against Dennis Kowalski is overwhelming. The truth will win. Over the next 6 weeks, Marcus attended strategy meetings, hired media consultants, and connected Raymond with pro bono legal teams. He also got Raymond started on naltrexone, alongside therapy and AA meetings, the combination finally giving Raymond sustainable recovery tools. Each attack was beaten back, but each took its toll. Raymond called Marcus at 2 a.m. multiple times, voice shaking, admitting he'd been standing outside liquor stores. Don't, Marcus would say. Call your sponsor. Come to my house. But don't drink. And each time Raymond would say, okay, I won't. The trial began on a grey Monday in December. The prosecution's case was methodical and devastating. Security footage, testimony from the rescued children, physical evidence from Kowalski's van. Then came Ethan's testimony. 7-year-old Ethan walked to the witness stand with his interpreter, Rebecca. Diana Torres approached gently. Ethan, can you tell us what you saw? Ethan's hands moved with precision, Rebecca voicing his words. I saw a man in a red jacket watching the playground. He looked nervous. 2 kids came to play. The man waited until they were alone, then walked over. I could see the kids' faces. They looked scared. The man grabbed the girl's arm, hard. Then they walked toward the parking lot really fast. What did you do? I tried to tell people. I ran to my dad, but he couldn't understand. I was crying and scared. I thought those kids would disappear, and it would be my fault because I couldn't make anyone listen. But Zara understood. She helped me tell the police. The defense attorney approached for cross-examination. Ethan, you can't hear. How do you know what the man said? I don't, Ethan signed firmly. I said I could see their faces and body language. I know what scared looks like. Isn't it true that Zara told you what to say? That her father coached you? No, that's a lie. I saw what I saw. Zara helped me tell people. Nobody told me what to see. Ethan didn't waver. His testimony was consistent, detailed, credible. Several jurors were wiping their eyes. Raymond testified the next day, telling his story exactly as practiced. The defense attacked viciously, questioning his memory, his past, his fitness as a father. But Raymond looked directly at Kowalski and said, I don't need revenge. I need children to be safe. Your client is a predator. I knew it 3 years ago, I know it now, and no amount of attacking my character will change what he is. The deliberation took 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. When the verdict was read, Raymond wept. Zara grabbed Marcus's hand. Outside the courthouse, Marcus made a statement. Today justice was served because people chose to see truth and speak it, even when difficult. My son showed incredible courage. Zara provided a voice when needed. Raymond demonstrated that redemption is real, that past mistakes don't define future character. I'm proud to call them all my family. 3 weeks later, on Christmas Eve, Marcus hosted dinner. Raymond stood to toast. 6 months ago, I was at my lowest point. Then my daughter stepped forward to help a boy who couldn't make anyone understand. That moment changed everything. Marcus, you saw 2 broken people and decided we were worth saving. I'm 94 days sober today. I have a job I love. My daughter smiles again. Thank you for giving me my life back. Later, Raymond told Marcus, I got a call from the Seattle School Board. They want me to head a district-wide ASL program, full-time position with benefits. That's incredible. You deserve it. None of this would exist without you. We saved each other, Raymond. That's how real friendship works. As snow began falling over Seattle, Marcus looked around his home filled with chosen family and felt richer than any bank account could make him. But he didn't know that the universe had one more test coming, a revelation that would connect their pasts in ways none could imagine. The storm was coming, but this time they wouldn't face it alone. We've reached the final chapter of this incredible journey together. If this story has moved you, I'd be so grateful if you'd hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. This is where everything comes together. 6 months after the trial, Marcus presented to his board, I'm proposing Hayes Foundation for Accessible Communication, funding ASL education, developing communication technology, and providing support for families affected by hearing loss. The foundation was approved with $20 million in initial funding. That evening, picking up Ethan from school, Marcus learned his class had started learning basic ASL thanks to Raymond's program. 5 kids signed good morning to me today. Ethan signed excitedly. At the park, Raymond introduced someone new, Dr. Michelle Carter, a neurosurgeon, Zara's aunt. I'm the aunt who failed my niece when she needed me most, Michelle said. When Raymond's addiction got bad, I cut off contact. I abandoned my sister's daughter. I've regretted it every day for 2 years. I read about the trial and wanted to make amends. Zara looked at her aunt, then her father. I think family makes mistakes sometimes. People deserve second chances if they're really sorry. Dad got a second chance. Maybe Aunt Michelle should too. They embraced family rebuilding itself. 5 years after that first Tuesday, it was Ethan's 12th birthday. Zara, now 13, had flown in from D.C. Raymond was 4 years sober, his face healthy as he talked about the National ASL Initiative's victories. The combination of therapy, medication-assisted treatment, and support systems had helped him maintain sobriety. 10 years later, Marcus attended Zara's high school graduation. She was 18, valedictorian, delivering her speech in ASL and English. 10 years ago, I was invisible, she said. Then I met a boy with the most important story to tell, and a man who taught me that seeing someone's potential is the greatest gift. To my fellow graduates, your differences are your power. If you feel invisible, find the people who will see you and help you speak your truth. 15 years after that first Tuesday, they gathered for a commemoration at Volunteer Park. The city installed a bronze sculpture of 2 children signing, titled The Power of Understanding. Marcus spoke at the unveiling. This memorial is about the moment when one person chooses to see another's struggle and says, I can help. My son taught me silence can be eloquent. Zara taught me courage comes in small packages. Raymond taught me it's never too late to become who you want to be. Ethan was 22 now, graduated from MIT, having created an accessible gaming platform. Zara was 23, in medical school at Johns Hopkins. Raymond, in his mid-50s, still sober after 14 years, had written a book about recovery that helped thousands. As the sun set over Volunteer Park, Marcus stood with his chosen family. He'd started the year as a CEO measuring success in profit margins. He was ending it understanding that the most important investments were made in people, in showing up when it mattered most. The silent witness had spoken after all, not with words but with courage. And in helping Ethan find his voice, they'd all found something more valuable, each other. As they stood together where it all began, Marcus felt the weight and gift of 15 years, the struggles and triumphs, failures and victories. They'd chosen each other, and that made all the difference. The end.